Buckle up, people. It's going to be a wild ride of a Monday episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. It was a wild weekend in the NHL, and we're going to break it all down for you on today's episode. Big time injuries, big time bets, of course, and everything in between, including our top waiver wire ads of the week upcoming. Thank you for joining us. Let's have a big week, everybody.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back inside the lab, everybody. That is the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Here for the Monday edition alongside my esteemed co-host, Mr. Steele Roden. It's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Today's episode, my friends, is brought to you by FanDuel, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. You can visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Steele, it's a big time episode, my friend. I say we have a lot to get to on today's show, almost as a precursor, because I'm always fired up. We have a lot to get to on today's episode. It was a wild weekend in the NHL. Pacioretty goes down. Caufield goes down. Ovechkin is day to day. We're going to talk about all of that. We're going to start with Bruce Boudreau and the Vancouver Canucks, but we got to get to the waiver wire ads and big time bets. It's going to be a jam-packed 30 minutes, my friend. And if you don't mind, I'm going to kick us off here with this Bruce Boudreau situation. I know you have something to say about it too. The Vancouver Canucks have done this man dirty. And when I dug into the numbers a little bit more, and the way they handled things was just wrong. It didn't make sense. You have players like Andrew Cogliano coming out. Andrew Cogliano has never said a single thing out of line in his entire career, and he's been around a while. Yeah. He's calling out the Vancouver Canucks for the way that they've handled this situation. Boudreau is 68 years old, and he deserves a lot more respect than what the Vancouver Canucks have done. Jim Benning was the previous GM. Jim Rutherford's in there right now. It's been a mess since Benning was in there. It's a mess now. Boudreau, in his career, Steele, 617 wins as a head coach, 342 losses. There's only one coach in NHL history that has a better winning percentage, and his name is Scotty Bowman. Someone better throw some respect on Bruce Boudreau's name real quick, because this is some hot garbage from the Vancouver Canucks franchise, and I don't even hate that they're having to suffer on the ice because of it, Steele. Bruce Boudreau, hats off, claps, stick taps and everything for acting like an absolute pro and legend. They handled this wrong. Rick Tocchet steps in. Bruce Boudreau is done behind the bench, Steele. What do you think about all this madness, aside from the Vancouver Canucks are hot garbage on the ice as well?
Well, there's a few things that I have liked in the recent days, and it's the response from the fans, the fan base in Vancouver. Bruce, there it is. Bruce, there it is. I can hear it from my apartment just down the street from the arena. And the fact that they're showing him some class and respect like the organization has just been wonderful to see, honestly. And, they obviously know it's been a hard time. The players know it's a hard time right now for not just them, but their head coach or former head coach, Bruce Boudreau. So shout out to them for definitely showing some respect and some class to a guy who's been in the league for so long and who has dominated as a head coach. But you're right. They did him dirty, and he did not deserve this from this organization. Looking back from last year, he comes in and he takes over for Travis Green. At the beginning of the season, the Vancouver Canucks were 8-15-2.
Exactly.
Early December when he took over, he turns them around and he finishes the season 40-30-12, finishing just a few points out of the 8th and last wild card spot to make the playoffs. He turned this, he turned this team around and he gave them a new identity, and he didn't deserve this. A lot of this goes on Jim Benning and the deals that he made. That Arizona Coyotes trade for Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Connor Garland might have been the worst thing for the future of this Vancouver Canucks team. And they know it now. The contracts are bad. The players are bad. They're not doing anything. Even just things that go on top of that. Like, there was no reason to go out and sign JT Miller for a long-term deal when he still had 1 year left on his contract. It's just a whole lot of debacle happening for the Canucks, and he didn't deserve this. He deserved a lot more respect. And honestly, looking at him from behind the bench, he was emotional about this. Obviously, it's a very big emotional thing. And Again, it's emotional for him because he doesn't know if he's going to be back behind an NHL bench. I hope he is. He's a great and fantastic head coach. I hope he comes back better than ever, but it's a tough situation. He did not deserve it.
Shouts out to Brucey. That's the takeaway here. Also, just maybe this is a good opportunity for you to buy low on a bunch of these Vancouver options. Elias Pettersson and others are still going to hold value. And if they do turn this around next season, there are still some pieces in there. Thatcher Demko, I know this year, Steele, it's been a wild ride for you as a Demko owner in the fantasy world. But I really do still see some value in some of those players. So you might be, especially if you're in the dynasty keeper formats, you might want to go out there and buy low on some of these Canucks players because the come up is going to happen. There's a lot of good young talent in this system. Let's just make sure that they get the right guys behind the bench and in the front office. Vancouver ownership needs to do better. And if I'm the Vancouver Canucks fans, I'm calling them out even more than they already have. Very quickly, Steele, Cole Caufield. Not only has he produced this season 26 goals, 36 points, leads the team in goals, second in points scored for the Canadiens. He was playing through this injury as well and still looking pretty good. You know, Marty St. Louis says they get the news and then it has to go down the surgery path. He's done. He's done for the year, it looks like, Steele. Shoulder surgery, 26 goals. You know I'm high on this player. 40 was in the grasp of this guy. If you're a Cole Caufield owner, it's time to jump ship this year. If you're in a dynasty format, you're hoping that you have an IR spot and you're shelving him till next season.
I don't want to capitalize on a guy that's injured and capitalize on the fact, it's some tough news for the Montreal Canadiens. But does that mean that I win this bet that you and I had that he doesn't get the 30 goals?
You do. No, that's how it works, brother. I think that's a 20 in your pocket. By the way, that might be your first side bet victory of the season.
Finally,
unless he comes back in April and scores to 17 goals here, Steele. I just don't see it. Our bet, yes, that would be a victory. Hey, that's some of these player future bets that, it's just a little bit spicy. But the main thing is here, tough blow from the Montreal Canadiens who are already, struggling to stay head above water. But Caufield is a young stud, and we'll say what you will about the bet that we made. He clearly is an elite goal scorer.
Elite goal scorer, no question about it, that he would have definitely got to at least 35, maybe 40, but he was up there. He was a great goal scorer, and he's going to come back better than ever. So hopefully he, he's rehabbing. It was a successful surgery, and he comes back better than ever. Max Pacioretty, though, tore his Achilles again. What, 4 or 5 games for the Carolina Hurricanes? He goes down again to this injury. That is just a brutal start to with a new team, a new organization, a place where it seemed like he was really enjoying playing hockey as well. And it's tough news for him. It's definitely tough news for the Carolina Hurricanes, who are not going to have him for the remainder of the season and probably for their deep playoff run.
And realistically, Steele, we already talked about this team maybe needing to make a move.
Yeah.
Now it's almost like their hands are tied. It's almost like been Kyle Dubas the last couple of years at the deadline when everyone knows he needed a blue liner. Now the book is out on the Carolina Hurricanes. They need some forward help, and they need it bad. Now it gets very interesting for a team that has cup aspirations, Steele, and so good on the defensive end. These non-contact injuries, man, you never want to see this. Even if it's a guy on your biggest rival or a player that you may personally not like, you never want to see guys go down with injury. You never want to see guys go down with injury like this. 34 years old, Steele. I'm never going to speculate on a guy's career being done. It's going to be very difficult for Max Pacioretty to come back and play at an elite level after tearing the same Achilles twice. We're going to talk about Alex Ovechkin. We're going to talk about the top waiver wire ads of the week. There's a lot to get to on this episode, Steele, including big-time bets. But I got to talk about AG1 real quick.
Yes, you do.
Today's episode is brought to you by Athletic Greens and AG1. This is a product that Steele and I like to use before and after the gym. It is just delicious and nutritious. It's lifestyle friendly. Whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, it's the right choice for you. 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs or nasty chemicals. It costs less than $3 a day for you to invest in your health. That's cheaper than your cold brew habit. And Athletic Greens has over 7,000 5-star reviews online and is recommended by pro athletes around the world. Right now, it's time for you to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. With just 1 scoop in water every single day, that's it. No need for a million different pills or supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you 1 free year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. That is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership of your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Don't forget, we are free and available on all podcast platforms, including YouTube. So make sure you go hit the subscribe, hit the follow button. Flip and I appreciate all the love and all the support that our listeners show us every single day. And thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode. Flip, we're definitely going to get to big time bets at the end of the episode. Waiver-Wire targets for this next week. Alex Ovechkin, though, what do you have on this in his injury?
Very quickly, this is just like we said the other day when Cale Makar goes down day to day. These are major players. If you're in the top 10, top 15 in the NHL, Steele and I are going to talk about it, whether they break a fingernail or whether they're out long term. We got to make sure that you need to know this information. That's going to affect your fantasy team in a big way. Ovechkin is day to day with a lower body injury. He misses Saturday night. We know this guy is a warrior, Steele. You brought this up one of the first episodes we talk about Ovechkin. One of the biggest assets he has is his longevity and ability to play full seasons in the NHL year in, year out. So when he's out, you have to pay attention because it might not just be day to day. It's saying day to day. I'm not speculating. I'm not saying he's out long term. But this is the stretch of the season, Steele. You can't afford to not be maximizing on your lineup. And I'm going to talk about that during the waiver wire portion in a minute here. Ovi has 17 minutes in ice time on Thursday night. He did not play Saturday. They got dusted by the Golden Knights. The takeaway here is, Steele, if you're an Ovi owner, make sure you're paying attention to the waiver wire ads just in case you need a forward fill-in this week. He should be back sooner than later, though.
Definitely sooner than later. He is a tough player. Even when he does have one of those nagging injuries or day-to-day injuries, he'll be back very, very soon. Let's get to the waiver wire targets so we can wrap this up, get to the football games and big-time bets as well. I'll start us off if you don't mind. I'll mention this guy real quick, and it's a guy I know you love. Carter Verhaeghe, 56% owned in Yahoo, 59% on ESPN. 3 goals, 5 points in his last 4 games. The Florida Panthers have 4 games this week. So I just quickly wanted to mention him, but I'm going to go down the list. Guys who are owned below 40% rostered on Yahoo and ESPN, starting off with Scott Lawton of the Philadelphia Flyers. I got to shout out our boy Adam Prine from YouTube. He's dropping comments every single day.
Yes, sir.
Shout out Adam out there. He mentioned Scott last week or a couple weeks ago.
Yep,
right now, rostered 38% on Yahoo, 22% on ESPN. And he's having a pretty decent season. 8 points in his last 6 games, 28 points on the season, 15 of which are on special teams as well. So you're getting a bunch of power play or PK points with Scott Lawton, 93 shots, 100 hits, 31 blocks. The Flyers do only have 3 games this week because they played 5 the last week. They play the Kings, the Minnesota Wild, and the Winnipeg Jets. So a little bit of a tough schedule, but like you said, the Philadelphia Flyers have been a lot better the last 3 weeks.
They definitely have. A shout out to the listeners, shout out to the viewers, dropping comments, dropping feedback. If you're out there in the audio podcast world on Spotify or Apple, head over to the review section, drop us some feedback. Let us know if you're feeling it or not. You know that's how we get better, Steele. And thank you for mentioning the Florida Panthers. Speaking of getting better, they're playing a lot better hockey. Say what you will, they do allow a lot of goals. That goaltending situation is in flux. But Anton Lundell is the player that I have a look at this week. 4 games, getting a look on the top line. 4-game point streak, Steele. This is a guy who's got 3 goals and 2 assists in his last 4 games, getting a little bit of a look on that top line. Slow start to the season, but if you're looking at maximizing on the schedule, Anton Lundell, you mentioned the tough one for the Panthers overall. I think this is a good week to add some Panthers. Anton Lundell is my man. And I have another for it if you don't mind me just reeling this off very quick, Steele. Andre Palat has been back now for 13 games with the New Jersey Devils, and he's getting a very good look on that top line in New Jersey. And you can't ignore Jesper Bratt and others on that line that he's getting a look with. I think it's time to go out there and add Palat. 3 goals, 3 assists so far. He's on a 3-game point streak. He doesn't bring too many of the peripheral categories except for hits. He does bring those. Andre Palat, worth a look right now. And let me just hit you with his ownership. 42% in ESPN. He's likely out there. I like the Andre Palat angle down the stretch here.
I like it. Devils have, got back to their game as well. So that would be a great look for a guy like Andre Palat. I'm going to Alex Killorn of the Tampa Bay Lightning, though. Rostered 23% right now on Yahoo, 38% on ESPN. He's up on the second line now with Steven Stamkos and Anthony Cirelli. So he's really taken off with his points. Obviously, before that terrible 6-3 loss to the Calgary Flames over the weekend, he was on a 5-game point streak with 7 points in that time frame. 33 points on the season so far in 45 games. Again, playing on that second line with Stamkos really just seems to get him going a little bit more.
Yep.
They have the Tampa Bay Lightning also have 3 games this week. They take on the Minnesota Wild, the Boston Bruins, and the LA Kings.
I love when it comes to this time of year, Steele. You got to really be maximizing those, especially the quiet nights out there. Throw some bodies in your lineup. If there's no daily addition or, limit to adding players, you got to have your finger on the pulse swapping in these players. And that's why I'm looking at Mark Giordano this week. 4 games for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And also, if you haven't been paying attention, Mark Giordano has had a very good year for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Say what you will about his age, Steele. You know that's a running joke with you and I. 39 going on 49 from Mr. Giordano here. 3 goals, 13 assists, 43 penalty minutes. He also gets it done for those peripheral categories. 92 blocks, 34 hits. And now he's starting to chip in offensively. He can be streaky with that offense. That's not why you're adding him. You take him for those peripherals. 4 games this week, and he's chipping in offensively right now. Giordano's time to strike on this man.
Talk about a guy who's streaky, and you're looking for those peripherals. My guy over here, J.G. Pageau of the New York Islanders. 25% rostered on Yahoo, 40% on ESPN. 27 points on the season so far, but it's really those peripherals you're looking for. 87 shots, 127 hits, and 44 blocks. I like this player a lot. I always try to draft him, towards the bottom end of my draft or even the middle end of my draft as well. I always like having him on my team. And like you said, streaky players right now. There's nights where he'll go out and he'll have 2 points, 3 shots, 8 hits in a block. And then there's nights where he'll have 0 points in a shot and 2 hits, something like that. But nonetheless, you're still getting some of those peripherals from him every single night. And the great thing about him, because of those peripherals, he's actually top 80 in fantasy points. He's right there beside Patrice Bergeron, Alexander Barkov, ahead of Trocheck, Panarin, guys like that, because of the peripheral stats that he racks up. And he also has 4 games this upcoming week. They take on the Toronto Maple Leafs, Detroit Red Wings, Ottawa Senators, and the Vegas Golden Knights.
This is when you have to, like I said, really focus in, spend a little bit of extra time at the start of the week, focusing in on the waiver wire and how many games are being played. And sometimes still, you're going to have to get a little gritty here. And my last pick is exactly that. And what I've seen from Jordan Staal, let me explain.
I like it.
This is a good player. I know he's old and he can be inconsistent. He's coming off a very nice game against the Islanders. 1 goal, 1 assist. 19 minutes of ice time, 4 hits, block shot. He chips in with those peripherals now because his role has diminished. But with Pacioretty out, they're going to need to shuffle things around a little bit until they find a forward or 2 to score some goals. And right now, over the last 15 games, Steele, and the Hurricanes have 3 games this week, Jordan Staal over his last 14 games, 5 goals, 6 assists for 11 points. Get sneaky here, people. Jordan Staal, I think, is in for a good week with those minutes on the rise with Patches out. Thank me later. Go out there and get Jordan Staal this week.
I like that pick as well. I did want him in a little bit of a referred role because Max Pacioretty was back, and if they go out and get a trade, but now that opportunity's there, get him back going a little bit just for now. But you're right. I like Jordan Staal for those peripherals as well. My final player before we get to big time bets, Victor Olofsson of the Buffalo Sabres. And just for coincidence, I just noticed that all of my players come from the Eastern Conference. But Victor Olofsson of the Buffalo Sabres, one of the top scoring teams in the NHL right now, rostered at 9% on Yahoo and 13% on ESPN. He's got 21 goals on the season. This is the 3rd time that he's a 20-goal scorer in the 4 seasons that he's been in the NHL. 5 goals in his past 5 games. And Buffalo's 3rd line of Olsen, Tyson Jost, and Casey Middlestat has looked really, really good today.
They have.
It's not just the top two lines that are going offensively. It's that line as well. And they've really given a lot of faith and opportunity to Tyson Jost, who has taken off since they picked him up off waiver wires as well. Yep. Buffalo Sabres also have 4 games this upcoming week. They take on the Dallas Stars, St. Louis Blues, Minnesota Wild, and Winnipeg Jets. So it's definitely a tough road trip, but we know it's going to be probably some high-scoring offensive games.
You can probably count on that, my friend. My last guy, I'm not even going to say anything about it. If you're in a dynasty or keeper format, this Luukkonen kid, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, the goaltender, his overall numbers might not be that great because of how he started. He's looked much better of late, and trust me, Buffalo doesn't care up front in their front office who is taking the blue paint. And quite obviously, they don't have a ton invested in Anderson and Comrie. Luukkonen, keep your eye on this kid. He will be the number 1 sooner than later. Let's get to these bets, though, Steele.
Yes, sir. And where you can find those bets now. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are here, and we're really excited about the new sports betting partners for Locked On because they're the number 1 sports book in America. If you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. And they have so many great features that makes betting on sports fun and easy. New customers can join today get started with $150 in free bet credits guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet on FanDuel. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel has all of your favorite bets from the money line to point spreads and even player props. Plus, you can even combine your favorite bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same game parlay. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So football fans, don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bet credits. Win or lose at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportbook partner of the NFL. Thank you so much for making Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Don't forget, we are free and available on all podcast platforms, including YouTube. So make sure you hit the subscribe, hit the follow button. Flip and I appreciate all the love and all support. And Flip, only 4 games on the schedule Monday.
Yes,
it's an easy start to the week. We're going to see a ton of hockey this upcoming week. But 4 games on the schedule. I have 2 games that I'm looking at. If you don't mind, if you don't mind, I'd like to just rattle all 3 of them off right now.
I would appreciate that, my friend. Let's have another big week.
Let's do it. I'm down. First bet of the night. I'm going to take the Stars on the money line -150 against the Buffalo Sabres.
Okay.
I do expect this to be a high-scoring game on both sides, but I'm going to take the Stars on the money line. Jamie Benn's gotten going a little bit more recently. Robertson's still doing his thing. Miro Heiskanen. The goaltending has been a little bit shaky, so that's why I expect it to be a little bit of a high-scoring game.
Okay.
But I'm going to favor the Stars on the money line -150 against the Buffalo Sabres. Second pick, Calgary Flames on the puck line against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Columbus Blue Jackets have been so bad recently. They were up 3-0 against the Anaheim Ducks. They lose 5-3. I expect a big winning game from the Calgary Flames. They just dominated the Tampa Bay Lightning 6-3. And we're talking about the Columbus Blue Jackets. It's easy. Flames on the puck line. Line actually isn't out yet, but we'll get that to you before the game. And my lock of the night comes from that game. Anytime assist from Rasmus Andersson.
Oh, your boy.
6 points in his last 4 games.
Your boy.
2 goals, 4 assists. He's really just been phenomenal this last week, and I can expect him to continue that this upcoming week, especially against the Columbus Blue Jackets. So that will be my lock of the night. A little player prop action to start Monday. Those are my 3 bets.
I like your Anderson bet the most. I'm with you on the Stars. So let me start there. Buffalo at Dallas. This is going to take a lot of juice on the money line. I'm seeing it already out there at -220. So no value in betting on this alone. This is a parlay special.
Yes.
But the Stars are the better team, and the Sabres, say what you will about the last couple of games, beating Anaheim, beating the New York Islanders. They lose an ugly one before that to the Chicago Blackhawks and an uglier one to the Florida Panthers before that. So these last 2 wins for me, I'm taking them with a grain of salt. And then when I look at the last 2 for the Dallas Stars, neat and tidy 4-0 against LA, and then the same result against the Zona Coyotes. This feels like free money to me. I'm not even going to go any more into it. Dallas at home on the money line. They also, in the last 10 against Buffalo, 7-2-1, taking points in 8 of the last 10. Feels like a good spot for the Dallas Stars. Second pick before I get to my lock of the night. I've been hammering overs with this Florida Panthers team for the past 2 weeks, and it's worked out, Steele. This Florida Panthers team is involved in a ton of high-scoring games.
Yes.
Their last 3, 5-3, 6-2, and 5-4 on their West Coast, on their East Coast road trip right now, Steele. They head into the New York Rangers. I was going to take the Rangers here, but the Panthers are playing pretty good. And when I look at the numbers, though, the last 7 games between these two teams at MSG, Steele, over the number. Yeah. I'm going over again, and I'm going to continue to go over. This might be a little 4-3 final, a little 5-2 Rangers I could see. That's my second pick. I'm going to continue to hammer the over with this Florida Panthers team. And conversely, on the other side of the coin, my lock of the night, the New York Islanders head into the Toronto Maple Leafs barn, and I'm liking the under here, Steele. I've been betting a lot of unders with the Toronto Maple Leafs. This just feels like the move, and when you take a look at the last 10 between these two teams, 7 of them have gone under the total. I think this is a good spot for a tight little Leafs game. 6 of the last 8 of the Islanders games have also gone under the number. My lock of the night tonight feels the right move here, Steele. Low-scoring game between this Islanders and Maple Leafs group. 6.5 is what it's at right now. Jump on it while you can. That's my lock of the night.
I love your lock of the night. I will take this under as well because if Ilya Samsonov is in net and his record at home proves that he probably should be in net, I think he's like 11-0-1 or something along those lines.
Okay.
He's been great. Below 1.80 goals against average. He's been phenomenal at home this season for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And of course, Ilya Sorokin, one of the best goalies in the league right now. I like your lock of the night as well. So I'm going to be parlaying that in with my 3 picks too. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Again, we're available Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. So you don't want to miss out. Right when you wake up, make sure you go to your favorite podcast platform, hit the download button, or go to YouTube and hit the subscribe button as well. We appreciate all the love, all the support out there. Thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there. And we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.